So in this section, I'm going to be talking to you about data sources and finding best practice. So let's start off talking about data sources. When you're looking for information, there are two fundamental types of data sources that you can be finding that information from. The first is primary, and then the other one is secondary. What do we mean by primary? This is real, live information that you can get, primarily from talking to people, doing interviews and things like that, surveys, getting out there, finding information. Facts from that primary source are so valuable. The more that you can be talking to individuals within the organization about what's going on in the organization, the more nuggets of information you will be able to find that will lead you to come up with the right solutions. And then you've got your secondary sources of information. Things like industry reports, consultants' points of view. There's a whole range of different things that you can be looking at here that are actually quite useful as well, that can give you some indications as to what might be going on and where you might be able to get, again, some of these nuggets. Obviously, there's a lot of basic information that quite often you need to gather. Financial information, operational information, customer information, a whole range of stuff like that that's important. But where you find that from is so important to get these sources right. The more you can get from primary sources, the better your research is going to be. Next thing I want to talk to you about is best practice. Best practice, quite frankly, is often where you don't expect to find it. It's so important to find, though, where these best practices are, because that can really help you in coming up with solutions, recommendations for your particular problem, for your particular client. I'll give you a classic scenario here, one that happened to me many years ago. So I was working in a brewery, and we were looking at the maintenance lines within that particular brewery. And they had a lot of problems with the lines breaking down and then them not being able to bottle the beer and doing all that sort of stuff. Now, obviously, that then has an impact on the market because they haven't got the beer, they can't sell it out there, etc., etc. You can see the knock-on effect. So we turned around and said, okay, we've got to find best practice. What is best practice in terms of maintenance? And we eventually ended up going to the airlines, because for an airline, maintenance is critical. You can't have a plane breaking down when it's 35,000 feet in the air. And so we went and spoke to Qantas and understood from Qantas how they do maintenance. And the whole issue for them is preventative maintenance, putting in place the systems, the processes that means that maintenance happens before a problem occurs, not after it's occurred. Change the mindset of the brewery, they put in preventative maintenance, and their line's now continuously running. Why is this so important? Because obviously we weren't looking at the brewing industry, we were looking at the airline industry as the source of best practice here. Why was it so important for the airline industry? Because if they didn't get their maintenance right, they would be out of business. And that's quite often the best source of best practice, is an organization where if they get that particular process wrong, they're out of business. They have to be able to do that brilliantly in order to survive. So look for those organizations that are brilliant in terms of those particular processes. And as I said earlier on, it's quite often not in the industry where you expect to be. And the important thing too is it's important to dig into the detail too, understanding not just, hey, this is how we do maintenance, but we do preventative maintenance. Now, let's get the detail behind that, and then being able to pick some of those nuggets up and take them back into your particular organization. Very valuable. So do look for those best practices as you're trying to identify solutions to the particular problems that your client or your organization might be facing. Think outside the box. Think about other industries which might be facing a similar problem, where you might be able to get those nuggets of best practice that can help you come up with recommendations.